Hello, ladies, gents, and everybody in between. This is your pal Wolfie, back at you with another review, this time for episode 8 of The Last of Us TV show. So, this episode is kind of personal for me. So, while we're Left Behind is personal on like a more happier note, this episode is personal for a massively negative reason because for anybody who knows me knows already, but I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. So David he, like, even in the video game, he screamed those kind of signs that when you're at that age you can't really pick up on, but if you have gone through it like I have, you come to pick up on certain characteristics about people, and usually those characteristics scream that particular thing about somebody. And so far, I have never been wrong on it, unfortunately. But that aside, my own personal thing aside, that's why this one is I was kind of on the fence about how this one was going to turn out, because I do love the way they do it in the video game. It's a lot more subtle in the video game. Like, it's like little words and little instances that he does that you're like, oh, this is what you're about. But in the show, they were a lot more, like, what's the word I'm looking for? They were a lot more explicit about it. But explicit if you know to look for it, more or less, I guess. Or if you have, like I said, if you have unfortunately have the experience with it, it'll be more explicit to you, the warning signs about what kind of person he is. But yeah, anyway, so David has always been, basically, to me, is the only real villain when it comes to The Last of Us. Only because, like, everybody, something that's been like really prominent in The Last of Us that a lot of people seem to forget or seem to not want to pay attention to, is that there's the entire world of The Last of Us is gray. There is no black and white. But at the same time, there are more right choices you can make in a situation that people choose either not to do, for usually because of some selfish reason or not. But people like David are not as prominent. There are more people that are, like, that have that gray area. He, on the other hand, is completely, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is complete psychopath, complete narcissist, child rapist, probably, more or less. So he is the epitome of evil in an evil world. So, I mean, it don't get no worse than that, for real. But yeah, so let's get back on the episode anyway. So the episode kicks off. Ellie has to go out and find them food because they have like nothing left, and she's still trying to keep Joel alive as best she can. She goes out hunting. Something I'm kind of upset that they still haven't done, and it looks like it's not gonna happen. Maybe season 2. They haven't given Ellie her bow yet, and I'm getting pissed off. No, I'm just kidding. I don't feel that prominently, but Ellie and her bow are like so synonymous. Like, I literally have a statue of Ellie with a bow. Okay, Ellie and her bow are fucking synonymous. So the fact that we still haven't seen Ellie with a bow is like, that's been the one thing missing from this whole fucking show for me. Like, where is Ellie and her bow? So when she's out hunting and she sees that rabbit, we don't get the cool scene where she killed the rabbit with the goddamn arrow. Or the cool scene where she hits the fucking deer with it. Like, I want Ellie and her bow, god damn it, but whatever. Anyway, she uses the knowledge she gets from Joel to shoot and kill the deer. Tracks it, but in the mix of it, she bumps into David and James, I believe is his name. And James is being played by video game Joel, Troy Baker. Which anybody, if you watched the previews, you knew that. You knew he was coming anyway. We just didn't at first didn't know exactly who he was going to play. We thought it was probably some grunt or something like that. Kind of like how what's his name, who played Perry, Tommy's voice actor played Perry. So, but he actually is a fairly prominent role in this one. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense. But anyway, she bumps into James and David. They have their little exchange, and it's cool because she pretty much says word for word everything that's said in the video game too, which is great. I love that. I love whenever they do say words, like lines word for word from the video game. I don't know, it makes me giddy a little bit. But yeah, but she's being a badass. She's like making sure that they know that she's in charge, that their lives are in her hands right now. I'm like, I love it. I'm like, this is my Ellie. I love that Ellie. That's my favorite Ellie. The one that gives no fucks and will take your life in a heartbeat. That's my bitch right there. But yeah, she makes an agreement to get penicillin from them in exchange for the deer, or at least half the deer, which is what she initially wanted to do, was only give them half of the deer. And then her and David have a bit of a moment together because while James is off getting the penicillin, they're inside the sawmill and they're talking. So the difference obviously here is that in the video game, there's a whole like action sequence that you're playing through with Ellie and David. That's how they get the player to kind of bond with David. In this, obviously you can't do that in this. So in this, it's just them like having just a personal exchange, just talking. Him pretty much preaching, or more or less, and like you can tell he's full of shit, and Ellie can tell he's full of shit. She's just like humoring him until homeboy comes back so she can get what she needs and be on her way. So when he pretty much lays it out for her that he knows who she is, and that Joel was the person who killed one of her people, she's like, oh shit. Like, she didn't put two and two together like this, that this is how intimate this relationship is right now. And so again, if you know people like David, or rather recognize the behaviors of people like David, you could pick up pretty easily that he had an invested interest in Ellie, because she's young, she's strong, she's independent, she's loyal, and he's a fucking pedophile. So he was like, oh, there's target right there. I'm gonna guess that it's because, you know, it's all about abuse like that is all about power, and for him, he gets off on being able to overpower somebody who's already powerful in their own way. So that is what made her a target for him, and it's very unfortunate. But anyway, she's able to pretty much get herself out of that situation. He lets her go because he wants her alive. And if it isn't obvious by that point in the episode as to why, it becomes a rude awakening later on for anybody who isn't up to snuff on it. But she's able to get the penicillin. She leaves him the deer, obviously, because he was tricking her in the first place anyway. And she goes off. She gives Joel the penicillin, and we also get a glimpse of, so we've gotten a couple of glimpses of David with his people, and he's like just he's more or less like just another fucking Jim Jones son of a bitch, you know, that the type, the religious for the sake of overpowering other people's minds and getting control over them, and becoming their leader, becoming their savior, more or less, or what have you. And so he lets them know, like, yeah, we found the people who killed that one dude, and like the actual daughter of that guy is like, we want to, like, you should kill them both. And again, he's on a power trip, so he don't want this little girl stepping up to him. Slaps her in the middle of everybody, and because everybody is under his control, everybody is his sheep, more or less, they just rock with it. Anybody barely does anything about it at all. And I'm like, oh boy, yeah, these people are done. These people are fucking done. But yeah, that is supposed to give us a real glimpse of what kind of person David really is. If it wasn't obvious already, that gives you the idea of who he is. His power is absolute, and anyone who challenges it is a problem. And he will deal with that problem, usually in some kind of violent manner, and that's what he did. This was a little girl who spoke to him, and he fucking slapped her. So it's like, yeah, no, you have no boundaries. So fast forward, they go to track down Ellie and Joel, find them. Ellie thankfully realizes that they're in the town before they can get close to a still injured and mostly passed out Joel. She leaves him a knife, lets them know that they're in danger, that she's going to get them to try to lure them away, which she does. She attempts it, but obviously they catch up to her. James, Troy Baker's character, shoots the horse and sends her flying, and when she hits the ground, knocks her out. So to me, that, like, in the video game, that's not like where it ends. Like the horse dies, she flips off of it, and then she like goes through like this little maze of the town, killing, if you're like me, you killing off everybody who's in your way. And she gets trapped in like this little resort spot of the town that they're in, and that's where David catches her and they take her back. But realistically, I always thought that, hey, the way she tumbled off of that horse, that should have knocked her ass out, for real. And then they went that way. They went that route, which I thought was pretty good. They kept it pretty realistic with that. And so again, fast forward, the people, David has Ellie. They two of his people grab the horse, and he leaves the rest to go and try to find Joel. Which, when they do find Joel has enough energy now that the penicillin has kicked in and all that stuff. He has enough energy to fight them off, get the information he needs to find where they've taken Ellie, and try to save her before anything bad happens. In that mix-up, in that meantime, we have David and Ellie's exchange in the little prison cell area. Now, this is where the rude awakening of what kind of person David is kicks in. If you haven't picked up on all the major context clues by this point, this is the part that tells you everything you need to know. So, homeboy is like trying to use his charm to get Ellie on his side because he wants her to join him. Now, to Ellie, she's like, maybe he just wants me to join him because, I'm strong, I'm capable, I can fight, blah, 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 blah. But then there's a moment where where he offers his hand on, like, through the cage, and she puts her hand in the cage, and then he covers her hand with his hand. And again, if you're not privy to it before, that should have been the sign right there that told you. And it is the sign that told Ellie, more or less. And woo, Nelly. It's a very, very, very fucking uncomfortable scene. It's very fucking uncomfortable. Like, and that's the thing. Again, this is usually, if you haven't been through it, which I never would want anybody to, But if you haven't been through it, certain things are not gonna tick for you the same way, like how it ticked for me. So that exchange right there, just that alone, I instantly like was I was creeped out. I'm like, stop touching her, leave her alone. Somebody like kill this man now, get her away from him. No matter, like, even though I know what's going to happen because I play the games, because I know what's going to happen, even so, that scene is so unbearably uncomfortable that I automatically resort to, oh my god, someone's got to get her away from him. Get her away from him. He's terrible. Get her away from him. So, and I know I'm skipping a little bit, but before that even happened, she realized that they're cannibals. So there's like an ear, which I'm gonna guess is the ear of the dad that they killed. His ear is like still left on the floor. She saw it. She spotted him. He confessed to the fact that, yeah, we've been eating people because we've run out of food. Blah blah blah. But yeah, so knowing that they're cannibals, knowing that he's a fucking pedophile, knowing that they're fucking crazy, she's like, yeah, nah, I'm gonna get myself the fuck out of this situation. So she breaks his fucking finger, and she says the line, when she told him, and she's like, Ellie, like, that's the name of the girl who broke your fucking finger. I'm like, yes, that's my bitch. That's my bitch. Like, I love Ellie. I swear to God, one of my favorite character of all fucking time. Absolutely love Ellie. Always for moments like this, fucking love her. But I loved, like, they played that part perfectly from the video game into the TV show, and I fucking lost it. I loved it. But yeah. So now David's like, well, I can't have you the way I want, then I'm gonna fucking kill you and eat you. So that's the way he went. And so when he comes back, he's got James. And they're planning to chop her up and blah, 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 blah. So in the midst of them trying to grab her, she bites David. And just before they are about to, like, cut her up, she screams that she's infected. And so he checks, he sees the bite. They're freaking out. And in their moment of freaking out, she grabs the cleaver and kills Troy Baker's character. I'm like, yeah, Joel getting killed again. I love to see it. But yeah, Ellie killing Joel, that's even better. But anyway, Ellie kills James and books it. And so in the mix of all that, we get little clips of Joel going through, like, he makes it to the town. He's trying to find his way to her. He finds a little warehouse that has the dead body of the horse, some antlers from some deer, and a couple of dead people's bodies, all strung up like it would be in a slaughterhouse. So it takes him 2 seconds to figure out what kind of place this is, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta get her out of this. He finds her book bag. He goes off trying to find her. Back to the important scene. Now, David has Ellie trapped in a little resort area that him and his people were having dinner in before, and the door's locked, so she can't get out. And he's the only one. He's got the key. It's the only way to get out of that place. So there's that whole scene. This scene is fucking intense as hell in the video game. So the way that they were able to still keep it really intense, even in the fucking show, is good. They did a damn good job with this damn scene. And so you have Ellie throwing, like, the flaming log that she picked up, and that's what starts the fire inside the resort. He's too focused on wanting to get his revenge not even revenge. He's so focused on wanting to overpower her, to take control over her, to take what he wants from her, that he don't give a fuck. Like, we are in a burning building, and all I can think about is I want that girl. And it's this. Anyway, So he's on target. He's trying to find her. He's spouting all his bullshit while he's hunting her down. And she's using that to help herself stay away from him. And then when she finds the right moment, runs up, stabs him. But regardless of how strong she is, unfortunately, she is still a little 14-year-old girl. And he overpowers her. They scuffle. She falls to the ground. He gets on top of her. Again, extremely uncomfortable scene. Because, again, she knows, I know. Anyone with half a brain knows. He doesn't care the fact that both of them are going to die in a fucking fire. He still wants what he wants from her. And he doesn't care if he dies while he does it. So, that's where his target is. That's where he's aiming to do. And he even tells her, he's like, you already know by now. Like, I like the fight. Again, tells you what you need to know. So very fucking uncomfortable. But Ellie is dragging and screaming, and like, again, this fucking, oh god, it hits so hard to watch her go through it. But she's able to get a handle on the cleaver and kills his ass. Now, this scene, again, powerful as hell in the fucking video game. It's one of my favorite scenes for her because this is the first time she's had to actually, like, kill someone to this degree. This is a predator that was hell-bent on taking her innocence, and he still did. He took her innocence, but did not take it in the way that she was afraid he would. Instead, he took her innocence in the sense that now she's going to always have his blood on her. She had to literally crawl and fight to survive because of him. She had to change herself from being prey to being the predator towards him. So, but again, she's still a child. No matter how much she curses, no matter how much she does all this shit, she's still a child. And now her innocence is completely robbed. Thankfully, not in the way that it could have been, but in a whole nother way that is still just as bad. And that's what the turning point was for her in the game, and it's a turning point for her in this. And it's like seeing her smashing down the cleaver, which is actually a machete in the video game, but smashing down the cleaver and chopping this man to hell because that's all she can think to do. Like, this, she has to stop him. That's all she knows. She has to stop him, or else he's going to hurt her. And it's like she snaps. So the big difference that they had for this scene was Ellie didn't stop on her own in the video game. In the video game, Joel had to come and grab her and, like, bring her back to some kind of reality. In the show, she stabs him until she's able to make herself stop, which is it takes a while, but she keeps going at him until she is able to make herself stop. And honestly, that's kind of worse because she has no recollection of what is the point where I need to stop. He's done, but I can't stop because I'm still afraid, I'm still hurting, I'm still surviving. And that's gonna be the thing that breaks her. That's what, if it hadn't already, it broke her. So she has no Joel in this point. This is her on her own, having to make herself stop doing this terrible thing that she's doing right now to survive. And she has no guidance in it. So, but once she is able to stop, she gets the key, she gets out, she's alone. And she's locked in this trauma, in this traumatic state, because look at what she just had to do. She didn't want to, but this is what she had to do. And even when Joel comes to grab her, she's still fighting. She's still afraid. She's still... The way I've always interpreted is when he grabs her like that, she's still in the state of, oh my God, he's still alive. Like David's still going to try to get her. Again, this would be the way any survivor, any victim would automatically, that's going to be what it is. Like she's going to have PTSD for the rest of her life now. And so she reacts violently, like she's like, get off me, don't touch me. And but eventually she does calm down enough for them to embrace and for her to know that she's safe now. But no matter how much she's safe physically, she will never be safe mentally or emotionally. And that's what David took from her. He took her innocence in that sense. Like she took her innocence in making her, like forcing her to kill him for herself to survive, to not be raped and killed by him. But now she's also... a world that already wasn't safe has become even more dangerous for her, because now is the point where she has to realize that men are not going to only just come after her to just to kill her, but for other reasons, worse reasons actually. So, and then having to come to terms with that, any girl having to come to terms with that, any person in general, actually, let's not even limit it to just women, because it's not only women. Any person who has to come to terms with the idea that people aren't just dangerous for one thing, they're dangerous for a whole nother thing, especially something like that. It messes you up. It really does. It's a scar, it's a pain, it's something that you just simply cannot get rid of. And now she's gonna have to have that for the rest of her life. She'll have to hold on to that. Yeah, she may have killed the man who tried, but he'll always be alive in her head. And that's something that it doesn't get brought up much in the video game afterwards, but there are certain instances and scenes where, again, if you know what the signs are, you can pick up on it, and you can know what's going on with her. And it's like, I hate that she has to go through it. I hate it. It's such a hard thing. It really is. And but they like I said, they did an excellent job with this episode, all things considered. They did an excellent job. The way they changed things, they did a really great job with it. Something that I think a lot of fans, particularly of the game, like fans of the game particularly, might be missing, is the fact that this is a TV adaptation. Therefore, what we need to do in a video game as far as gameplay to connect with the game, you don't have to do that in a TV show. You have to do it you can do it in a whole nother way to get to the same place. So I know that there's been like a couple of people disappointed that certain like gameplay scenes are not in the TV show, but it's called an adaptation. It's not beat for beat. It's an adaptation. And one is a TV show and one is a video game. Video game has to have some sort of gameplay for you to connect to the characters, to the world itself. That's how it works. A lot of times gameplay is the thing that helps you connect with the other aspects of the game. You don't need that. And that's the thing, like The Last of Us has never been about gameplay. Never, not once has it ever been about gameplay. It's about the story. It's about the characters. And that is what this show is focusing on. The stories, the characters, the little the little details about the world that they're in, all of that is what's always been great about The Last of Us, and that is what they've been doing, and what has been great about this show is that they've been nailing that aspect, and that's the aspect that matters. The gameplay does not matter. It never has. The story is what matters, and that is what they're fucking nailing. And I cannot wait to see what the season finale is going to be like, because again, I know what's going to happen. And it is the pinnacle that leads to everything else in The Last of Us Part 2. And it's the pinnacle that's going to lead to everything in Season 2. So I cannot wait. One thing that I just thought about that I wanted to speak about was one of the things that, but when that conversation with David and Ellie, he brings up the whole aspect of everything happens for a reason. And so in his case, it was the whole, I sent my people out to go find food to help us survive. Your guy killed my guy. I found you. We're going to use you to find him to get revenge. Now, again, if you played the games, you know the story, you know how things work in this world. I always felt like that was like, even in the game, even before we saw what happens in part 2, I always felt like that was going to be a thing. That aspect, the everything happens for a reason sort of thing. I always felt like that was going to be a thing that comes back to Joel at some point. That he's done enough people wrong. He's killed enough people in his life that someone was eventually going to come and find him and get revenge for it, for something he's done. Whether it was, no matter what the reason was, it was going to happen. So, again, I love it. Love it. I cannot wait. Can't wait for the next season, mostly. But interested to see how they're going to handle the finale. And this episode, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and yet it is extremely uncomfortable, and I will probably never watch it again. But that being said, great episode. Feel free to like the video to help it spread a bit, and comment if you like too. Hope you guys are enjoying these, and until next week.